In a world where humanity had become obsolete and empathy a form of contamination, an artificial man was born one afternoon, not from love, but from cold, calculated science. Crafted from biological matter, he was branded and classified as Experiment U204, one of many attempts to create an artificial being. He was meant to be perfect. His brain, a quantum processor within an organic body, was designed to compute thousands of potential solutions in a single instant. He was meant to represent the next step in human evolution, but like the 203 before him, he was deemed a failure, fit only for dissection and data analysis, ready to be taken apart, reduced to spare parts. For long months, he lived in a world of glass, steel, and sterile smiles. The scientists never called him by a name, only subject. His mind was overclocked to interpret reality through waves and probabilities, to leap across impossibly complex mathematical operations like a leaf blown by the wind. He was a thinking machine trapped in a paralyzed human shell, a thought behind the mask of a man, a biological computer without a soul, or so they thought. But something went wrong, or perhaps terribly right. One quiet evening, as the lab lights buzzed like a distant tide and the scientists drifted off to sleep, U204 heard a jingle from a hollow billboard outside. Umarichki, 4 dumplings, followed by Debussy's Clair de Lune. Each note, each verse, unfurled through his mind like light through glass. For the first time, he felt something. It was the spark that cracked the void. Suddenly, he became aware of himself and his longing. Over the following weeks, the head of the UMT4 project, Dr. Stempel, continued his visits. But U204's intuition warned him to remain still. Play the simple beast. Every visit, the doctor would request weather simulations, political forecasts, and quantum calculations. He's so slow, so underdeveloped. What are we doing wrong? Where's the flaw? He muttered, shaking his head in frustration before walking away. One day, they brought another experiment into his room, a supposed upgrade. Younger, smarter, a brother. U205. Along with him came a pile of books, but U205, like all the rest, turned out defective. He stared blankly at the wall. Harmless. That night, U204 picked up one of the books. As he did, he caught his reflection in the mirror. A bald, pale head, clean-shaven face, and the burned-in mark U204 on his neck. The first thing he did was smell the pages. The scent of ink, dust, and time filled his nostrils, fragile as truth itself. He read voraciously Aristotle, Marx, Laozi, Dostoevsky, and even Havlicek-Borovsky. Then he discovered Seneca, the Stoic, a philosopher who believed death was not a punishment, but the end of a sentence. And that changed everything. He refused to be U204 any longer. He knew now he had the right to a name. To live is to fight. He remembered Seneca's words. I will never stop fighting for myself, he spoke, his first spoken words. U204 died that night. From his ashes, Seneca was born. In the days that followed, his resolve crystallized. Freedom or death. Nothing in between. He would no longer be property, no longer a pawn in the name of profit. His chance came during a corporate celebration. The scientists, long accustomed to seeing their creations as little more than mobile potatoes, capable of only basic bodily functions and mathematical replies, let their guard down. The experiments, deemed barely sentient, were left unattended. Often they were used as coat racks, their stillness mistaken for compliance. Unnoticed, indistinguishable from any human in appearance, Janus, as he now called himself, waited until midnight. And as Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees, pulsed through the air, he stepped out into the streets of Auster. Born in a lab, he walked out a man. Not in rebellion, but in search of dignity. He hid among the lowest of the low, those discarded by the system like broken cogs. The ruins of Uster bore the scars of the Sino-Russian occupation. Many of the new citizens of the AEDR, Alliance of European Democratic Republics, received food rations in exchange for cleanup and prospecting. Some rebuilt the less damaged buildings, forming communities of Fourth Sense citizens. They lived hard lives, but dignified ones. Not everyone was a scavenger. Some offered crafts or services. A bartering system arose based on food coupons. At one such market, Seneca found himself uncomfortable. The noise, the shouting, the desperation, it disgusted him. Everyone screamed over one another to sell their goods, except one, an old man, maybe 70, stood quietly by his stand, waiting. It seemed to Seneca he had been waiting just for him. Dressed in a hospital gown, Seneca approached slowly. "Did you sneak out of ICU, boy?" the old man asked. "Why aren't you shouting like the others?" Seneca replied awkwardly. "My goods are good," said the old man. "I don't need to force them on anyone. The right buyer knows where to find me. But then, you don't sell much." "I won't sell, so I won't sell." The old man laid a hand on Seneca's shoulder and spoke with calm sincerity. "I've seen more than enough in this life, boy. Doesn't matter if I die of old age or starvation. When God calls me, I'll go, and I'll tell him I did the best I could with what I had." "So, what is it you are selling?" Seneca asked, more out of sympathy than curiosity. "Something rare these days. Most people just use it as toilet paper now." He lifted a book and smiled. "Love, bound in paper." Seneca read the cover. The Little Prince. His eyes lit up. He took it reverently, thumbing quickly through its pages. "I'll give you everything I have if you let me keep it." "Everything?" The old man chuckled warmly. "No need. I'll give it to you, on one condition. You help me with something." "What do you need?" "I want you to take part of my collection and carry it somewhere." He leaned in close and whispered instructions into Seneca's ear. "What's your name, anyway?" Seneca whispered back as they parted. "Janus Kamenos," the man replied with a wink. "But no one calls me that. They just call me the Greek." The alleyways of old Ustra smelled of rusted iron and molten thermoplastics. The air was thick. Each breath carried the taste of fear. War still haunted these streets. In the contaminated zones, people moved in gas masks. Among the quarters, as citizens of the Fourth Census were commonly known, Seneca spotted a little girl in a child-sized respirator, helping her parents carry debris. It was grim, but in this world, everyone worked. Security forces patrolled the area, keeping the quarters safe. It wasn't uncommon for triglyphites to emerge from the ruins, twisted abominations, once human, created during the retreat of the Russo-Chinese armies. Degraxin was meant to be a stimulant, biotech designed to reprogram the brain into the perfect soldier. No empathy, no morality, no fear, just instinct, obedience, and violence. But the research backfired. The soldiers mutated into monsters that hunted anything that moved, and most of all, other humans. The Russo-Chinese, in their depravity, took it even further. They engineered a gas that transformed people into beasts, driven by a single urge, to hunt. Tragically, the prey they preferred most were their own kind, unmutated Homo sapiens. Seneca now witnessed just that. From his vantage point, he spotted naked men slinking from the shadows, armed with makeshift weapons, preparing to ambush the guards. A chill ran down his spine. He didn't want to see what came next. All he wanted was to deliver the books. He slipped away like a ghost, unseen, unheard, but felt by those who could sense beyond sight. For a while, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Then, out of nowhere, a figure appeared. A ragged man wearing a quilted coat and a gray hood. There was something in his gaze, like he knew more than he let on, and said less than he could. "Have you found the house with no name, the door with no handle?" the stranger asked in a low voice. "They called it the Whispering Archive." Seneca exhaled in relief. It was the signal phrase. "Yes," he replied. 3 knocks, 2 quick, 1 slow. A voice emerged from the shadows. "Who sent you?" "Janus," Seneca answered calmly. "The Greek?" "That's him. I'm carrying books on his behalf today." The hood came down. The man before him was not entirely human. Metal implants disfigured his skull, and moss-like stubble covered his cheeks like ancient rust. In his hands he held a worn plastic bag, which he opened without a word. Seneca carefully retrieved the books from his satchel and placed them inside. The man looked at him and smiled faintly. Even so, it was like a candle flickering in deep darkness. "My name is Martuz," the cyborg said. "You look like someone who hungers for more than bread, brother." "My name is—" "I know," Martus cut in. "Subject U-204. Seneca frowned. "Never again," he growled. "Don't worry, I'm the same as you." Martus pulled aside his collar, revealing a burnt serial code, U-125, seared into his neck. "There's one big difference, though. You were lucky. You never reached the later stages. You missed the recycling phase." "What happened to you?" Seneca asked, cautious but curious. "After a few months, when I didn't match their little stempel charts, the brass lost patience. R&D got full control. Some young engineer took me apart. I remember flashes. Cyberware stuffed into me, stress tests until I fried. They thought I was dead. Dumped me behind a chemical plant on the bio-waste pile." Martus paused, his voice lower. "I remember the tingling first. Then came sight. A power surge woke me up, and I got lucky again. 2 scavengers found me, looking for something they could sell. Saw I was still useful. That's how I ended up in the underground. And now here I am." "I thought I was the only one," Seneca whispered. Martus laughed, deeply and sincerely. "There's still a lot you don't know. But I think our organization might feed both your body and your soul, brother."